Marquez Brownlee released. This is like a 2-week-old video, but still, I want to see it. I wanna get my reaction to it. This is an M4 iPad Pro. So I've got the M1 iPad. I think that's like 4 years. No, it might be like 4 years old. I'm not too sure. I don't really remember. But it's like it's an M1 iPad anyway, I think. So not that I'm going to go and buy an M4 iPad, because to my best of my knowledge it gets up to 3,500. But I kind of find them pointless when you got phones. But we're still going to watch it. We're going to get reaction to it. I'm interested to see what this is going to be like. Let's go.
Okay, so Apple had a nice short little 30-minute event today announcing just a bunch of new iPad stuff. Now, this was the longest they've ever gone without updating anything iPad related, so they had some cooking to do. But the thing is, and I feel like we've been saying this for years, it kind of doesn't matter how powerful they make the iPad. It's still an iPad, right? It's still iPad OS, and we've seen gigantic improvements in the M series chips, and these iPads are like the most powerful chips ever on paper, but they're still iPads.
If we could have, right, I'm sure this is a thing, right, but if we could have, like, I want to see, like, the iPad level of power, but on some kind of Windows PC. Like, I tried to, bear in mind mine's an M1 iPad. I've tried to use DaVinci Resolve on iPad, and it is laggy as hell. Bear in mind, I've tried to use it to edit some stream clips, which are only 1440p 60 FPS, so the iPad should be able to handle that. Don't get us wrong, this new iPad's probably a lot more powerful than mine, but that's what I want to see. I want to see, like, something that essentially turns into a PC, but not, I essentially want I want a tablet PC is what I want, but there's nothing really as powerful as the iPads to the best of my knowledge.
So the last thing we need after all this time is just another spec-bumped iPad, right? Well, let me introduce you to the newest iPads. So first up, there's a new iPad Air, which follows the script.
It looks sleek as hell.
iPad Pros,
damn.
And of course, making it available for this lower price. So it graduates from the M1 to the M2 chip inside. It starts up at 128 gigs of storage now, and it moves the webcam to the landscape bezel where it belongs. It gets faster Wi-Fi, and for the first time, there is a larger one now. So they're calling it the 11-inch and the 13-inch iPad Air. I had to clarify just because the last one was 10.9 inches. So are they just simplifying the name? Like, is it actually bigger? And turns out, yeah, there is just a little bit more screen here. Great. But other than that, it's pretty predictable. It's a spec bump. Like, this is sticking to the script here. I think I could hand you the newest iPad right now, and you couldn't really tell the new Air from the old Air just looking at it, other than if you're holding the bigger one or if you recognized the super exciting new colors. I mean, hopefully you could hear my sarcasm through the screen, but there's blue, purple, starlight, and space gray. So it's $599.
I seen a video today, right, of what to expect with the iPhone 16. Bearing in mind, if I get a new iPhone, it will probably be a 16. The regular 16, you can't just get, like, in this case, you've got like what is essentially black and white. It's like a grey and a white. That's the closest thing you're going to get to those colours. With this iPhone 16, the regular iPhone 16, you can't get those colours. So I hate these, like the purple and the blue one. I hate that. I would never buy something like that. I never had iPhones when it was like the iPhone C era, but I would never have bought an iPhone C. Not a chance. So are you telling me that I've got to buy a Pro iPhone just to get the colour that I want? I love the colour on the back of this phone. This is an iPhone SE 2020, but I love the red on the back of it. I think it looks so clean, especially when it's not dirty and it is actually, clean. But I think the red on there looks really nice, especially with the dark red rim on the outside. It's actually a slightly different colour to the back panel. But no, I think that's a really nice colour, and I would love to see that again. But obviously they're not doing product red anymore, to the best of my knowledge. But it's annoying that if it's true that I have to buy a Pro phone just to get a colour that I want, I'm going to be really annoyed. Apple!
$9 for the small one and $7.99 for the bigger one.
I don't think that's a bad price.
We also got a more significant update to the iPad Pros. This is where they push the limits of the iPad. This is where they want to show their absolute best stuff, the best possible tablets. And man, if we just ignore the software for a second, these new iPads are ridiculous. So first of all, they start off by revealing that these new iPads, the 11-inch and the 13-inch, are the new thinnest Apple devices ever made. ever. That's including phones. That's including like old iPods and everything. The 11-inch is 5.3 millimeters thin, and the 13
Wow.
inch is 5.1 millimeters thin. So that's
Eh?
literally thinner than the iPod Nano ever was. It's nuts. It looks ridiculous.
That's
It's
crazy. That.
crazy to hold. It's also lighter, as you might imagine. It just kind of feels like this impossible sheet of metal in your hand. I don't know if anyone ever looked at an iPad Pro and asked for it to be thinner, but that's what they went and did. What could possibly go wrong? Fun fact: this also now means that the iPad Air is heavier than the iPad Pro, just to make sure we keep a mess of an iPad lineup going. But the new Pro also gets a new chip and a new screen. So Apple took this event to introduce us to the next generation of Apple Silicon with the M4 chip. And this iPad is the only thing that it's in right now. It's just the iPad with M4. So that gives it, stop me if it sounds familiar, even more ridiculous amounts of power in such a tiny physical and thermal envelope, especially since we came from M2. So it's a more power efficient 3nm chip. The CPU cores net out to like 50% faster than M2. The GPU is up to 4 times faster.
I'm not even gonna. I have to say this. I don't understand anyone who plays games on something like an iPad unless you've got some kind of like stand that it's on and you've connected an Xbox controller. Like for those that don't know, you can now. I don't think many of them are out, but they are starting to release emulators which are now allowed on the App Store. So if you're using your iPad like on a desk and you're sat here. Try it again because I just knocked my drink over. If you're sat here with a controller and you're sat there playing on there and it's a massive iPad Pro screen like this one is, if you sat there playing on controller, I get it. But if you're sat there playing games like this video shows, if you're sat there doing this, then... But I don't understand you, to be honest. I don't understand what the hell you're doing with your life. You may as well just go and play on a PC monitor or one of them. That's a big TV in case you haven't realised. There's no point to it, I don't think. I don't get it. I don't. Well, it's the point it is. Yeah, I think it makes sense if you. I don't know why you wouldn't just buy a portable monitor. I don't know. Just don't play games on an iPad, comprende?
They're
Capiche?
saying that they can do the same performance output as M2 with half the power, so it's super efficient. There's an improved neural engine. There's better cooling. Now again, I don't know who was asking for a thinner iPad, but there's kind of no denying that it's at least just physically impressive to look at. And this is the type of thing, this is the form factor that is specifically enabled by the M4 chip. Apple is quoting basically the same battery life as the last iPad Pro. And I have to assume that there's significantly less physical battery in the thing because it's so much.
I was quite sad today. I went to turn on my iPad and I don't know what I was going to do. To be honest, I don't really remember what I was going to do, but there was a reason why I turned on my iPad. Battery was dead. Battery was dead, and do you know the longest cable that I had for it? That is the right cable. That's the longest cable. Moving on.
Much thinner. So that just basically means Apple's going, hey, we think that was enough battery life in the last gen, so we're just going to match that, and that means we can go way thinner with less battery because the new chip is more efficient. So then the new display. This is another thing that is actually kind of enabled also by the M4 chip. Sometimes it seems like they're just saying that, but this is also true. So these are OLED iPads now. Both sizes, it's the exact same set of features across both iPads.
Decent.
Which kind of makes the $300 price difference between them a little bit tougher. But yeah, OLEDs on both the new iPad Pros. And OLED is awesome, right? We already knew this.
I swear I've seen somebody say, I'm guessing is it from that price? From $999. So I've seen a video where someone said they go up to like 3.5K. If that's accurate or not, I don't know. It could be, it's a bit muddy. But I'm pretty sure I've seen somebody say that. And if that's the case, that's insane. But people were happy to pay for that Apple Vision Pro, I guess.
But yeah, OLEDs on both the new iPad Pros. And OLED is awesome, right? We already knew this. We've had OLED phones forever. The pitch black blacks, the individually lit pixels, the super awesome vibrance, like all of the OLED stuff is great. And we were excited to finally see it in a relatively gigantic display that is an iPad. But making a huge OLED that's also incredibly bright was a challenge that required just a little bit of extra engineering, a little extra ingenuity. So they put together something that they're calling a tandem OLED display, which honestly, to me, I think this is maybe the most interesting part of the whole tablet event today. So you can basically think of it as two different OLED displays stacked on top of each other. And then the new display driver on M4 can address both layers simultaneously. So that's what's allowing them to get really high local brightness. And that's the spec now. That's 1,000 nits of peak full screen brightness and 1,600 nits of peak HDR brightness on an OLED on an iPad sized screen. And in person, it looks, well, it looks like a really bright OLED. It looks super colorful, really bright, inky blacks. You know, in this hands-on area that I got to spend like 30 minutes in, it's not going to look its best and there's crazy lighting everywhere, but I will be getting my hands on it to review, and I intend to dive in and find out if there are any downsides, but it looks pretty great here. And then also, weirdly, they announced a nanotexture matte version of the iPad Pro. So you know how there's a matte Pro Display XDR? I would be very careful about ordering this particular option based on what I've seen. Like, I can see here that it is definitely better at dealing with reflections than a normal display. That's awesome. But just like the desktop version, that is at the expense of a little bit of sharpness and contrast. You know, the blacks don't look nearly as black to me, even at 0 degrees off axis. And I also have to wonder about durability, because the Pro Display XDR is very picky about which microfiber cloth you use, and you can literally ruin it if you use the wrong one. And with this iPad, you know, I can...
You can pay like how much for a Pro Display XDR, and the wrong microfiber cloth can do.
Feel the difference between the soft touch texture of the nanotexture.
As much as I love my phone, as much as I like Apple, you know, the software is what matters to me. They've got the problems. Let's be real.
And the glossy bezels. And I have a feeling that you're only going to be able to use or rely on the microfiber that comes in the box with this thing. And not only does it cost an extra $100 to get the nanotexture, it's also only available on the 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte highest end models. So I think they know that like people shouldn't just walk in the store and just get it because it's on the base one. So yeah, just be careful with that one. But you know what probably made the most headlines out of all the stuff announced today is the spec bumped Apple Pencil. There's now a new Apple Pencil Pro, and it looks exactly the same as the previous Apple Pencil, but with this new text on the back that says Pencil Pro on it now. Unfortunately, that's still not the eraser. But yeah, this new Apple Pencil Pro has a haptic motor inside, so it supports Find My now. There's also a new squeeze sensor in the barrel for activating tools in different apps that will support it, and a new gyroscope actually makes it rotation sensitive. And I was trying this. It's surprisingly precise, like really, really good. So if you're an artist, not like me, you know, maybe you're doing a barrel roll with certain drawing apps or calligraphy applications for the $129 that it costs to get one of these things. But another incredibly inconvenient note, this new Pro Pencil is only compatible with the newest, recently announced iPad Pro or iPad Air. Because when they moved that webcam to the long side, that's also where a lot of the magnets for lining up and charging the pencil were, so they had to redesign the magnets up there, and that's now a different array, so it's only compatible with the newest iPads. Why didn't they just move it to the other side for charging? I don't know. Maybe that makes too much sense. And then there's also a new Magic Keyboard as well. Still ungodly expensive.
Oh my god, man.
If you get the new one, it's lighter than the previous gen, the trackpad is bigger, and there's a whole function row at the top now, which actually...
I've got a Razer Huntsman V2 analog, right, and it's a very expensive mechanical keyboard. It costs us £200. Don't get us wrong, Razer's not the best company I know, but nevertheless, if an Apple keyboard manages to cost more than this £200 professional keyboard with a detachable rest, check me, I'll be amazed, and I wouldn't surprise us if it was.
Actually, that is super useful. And the pass-through charging...
Wait, what you just said? What's super useful?
But if you get the new one, it's lighter than the previous gen, the trackpad is bigger, and there's a whole function row at the top.
Ooh,
now,
okay, yeah.
That is super useful. And the pass-through charging is even faster. Apparently, it's 60 watts through the pins in the back. But all that being said, at the end of the day, guess what? We just got another set of spec-bumped iPads. They are metal rectangles with incredible power and efficiency in our hands that are just still iPads. And I don't know how many more times I can say this, but like taking advantage of all of this power is nearly impossible. There are a tiny sliver of apps that actually make it feel like worth upgrading. There's almost nothing these iPads can do that my M1 iPad Pro can't do. And this isn't even to downplay the hardware, because the hardware is actually amazing. That's where the difference comes from. Like, it's got this super bright, high resolution OLED displays with pitch black blacks, this M4 chip with ridiculous power and efficiency, new CPU, new GPU, better neural engine. Like, I've never wanted an iPad to be thinner, but that line about them wanting the iPad to feel like a magic sheet of glass really resonated with this model in particular, even if you do feel like you could snap it in half the whole time. It's just the awkwardness of this one mainly comes from timing, because I think we all know, well, it's already been announced, WWDC, their Worldwide Developer Conference, is right around the corner, and we all know and expect them to update all of the software across all their stuff, a new iOS, a new iPad OS, so I guess iPad OS 18, and whatever Apple is going to decide to do with that is around the corner. So we've got these new iPads shipping next week, but all the new software, that could be awesome. Well, that's this summer. And this feels like it could be one of the biggest updates yet to these iPads. You know, it's Apple showing their hand at how many more AI features they want to build in, and how many more features people want to add that lets this be their primary computer. Maybe more Siri improvements, all of this stuff. So in this awkward meantime, here we have these really, really impressive.
That's one thing I need to try. I was looking at that app thinking that's not DaVinci Resolve or anything. That's Final Cut. That's something I still haven't tried. And if I'm not mistaken, it is available on my iPad. A lot of people say that Final Cut is the best like editing program they've used, and I need to give it a shot versus DaVinci. DaVinci on PC is one of the best experiences I've ever had, but I tried it on iPad. Bearing in mind it's a learning procedure. I expected that, but I don't know if I open Final Cut. Yes, open, it's free. If I open Final Cut and it's better, then I'll stick to DaVinci for like, it says start making more YouTube videos. I'll stick to DaVinci for that and then go to Final Cut on my iPad. So that's actually something I'm going to have to keep that in my head because I want to try it.
Spec bumped iPad Pros, the most powerful iPads of all time, the thinnest Apple devices literally ever made, but the list of things it can do is the same as my 3-year-old M1. Just saying. What a time to be alive. Speaking of announcements, though, Ridge and I. But yeah, let me know what you think of these new iPads in general. I mean, it's kind of an awkward waiting period until we get all the new iOS 18 stuff, but let me know what you think. New thinner than ever iPads. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
I enjoyed that video. That was good. I actually really enjoyed that video. As for, like, let's say I had the money to buy one of these new iPads, I wouldn't. I've got an iPad that I spent 850 of my university's money on, because I essentially just stole the money. And I was like, yeah, I'll have that. No, it was like, what do they call it? Student finance. I got some money from that to help us with my uni stuff, and I actually bought the iPad with the idea of doing all my uni work across the cloud and using the iPad, which I did do for a decent amount of time. I used the iPad for certain work on the cloud, and I used some apps specifically for my uni work, and it worked really well. Would I buy this if I had the money? There's no point because I never use it. But I think that was a good video. I did enjoy it, and it was a good review of it. And yeah, end of the day, it's just a spec bump. There's not much to it. So yeah, even if I did have the money, I wouldn't be going for it. I'd be saving it for a new iPhone with hopefully some nice colours like black or grey and white instead of pink. God damn it.